Hello, welcome to our virtual showcase, Mending the Engagement Gap in Turbulent Times. My name is John Bradford, and with me today is
Crystal Thomas.
And Crystal, welcome. It's absolutely a pleasure to have the opportunity to work with you again today. You are here today because if you thought employee engagement was lacking and a significant expense in normal times, you probably are recognizing just how damaging and expensive employee engagement can be, especially during times of turbulent change like we're facing today. You're here because you want your employees to adapt to a new normal. And in this new environment, you want to allow them to realize their potential and fully engage with their work. You know, crisis leads to lasting change. And hunkering down and waiting for the world to turn back to the way it once was probably isn't going to look exactly the same. You're here because you want to understand how to engage your employees when they're working remotely. You know, life is disrupted, and all of a sudden they move from an office environment where life is pretty consistent to now being in this remote environment. So how do you engage as a manager and a leader to lead others during times of uncertainty? How do you equip that virtual team to continue to operate collaboratively while leaning on the strengths when things are difficult? And this truly is a very, very challenging time right now. Again, my name is John Bradford, and I'm part of the Wiley education team. And for me, this has been 42 years. I've had the opportunity through my eyes to experience some unique disruptions. And I'm hoping today to be able to touch on those and really touch on how, in these times, actionable data can really help you thrive and survive this type of crisis. Now, Crystal, I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Of course. Well, I'm Crystal Thomas, as I mentioned earlier, and I am the Senior Manager of Client Services team. And today I really want to delve in with John into a conversation about navigating turbulence as well as thriving and creating a team that will be able to withstand not only the turbulence of today, but also the future that your organization holds. So, John?
Great, thank you. You know, as we get started, I want you to think about a recent period of turbulence. You know, it could be what we're experiencing today or what you're experiencing today. You know, and we know that that's what probably caused you to want to join this session. You know, I want you to take a minute and let's reflect back. You know, it's been an interesting 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe shut your eyes and think back to what normal was like. Gosh, you know, never thought going to work day in and day out and being with the people you're with and working in the kind of environment where things were predictable and consistent and the support systems were there, that was normal. Now you open your eyes and there's a new reality. You know, we all know this could be temporary. This could be long term. The key is we are going to survive. In a crisis, we're going to come through this. We're going to be better than ever. But you, each of you and your company, have to work hard at helping people adapt to this new reality. Now, if you were like many of us, you probably one day woke up and everything was normal and you were working with everybody just in the office. And now you wake up and I look up on the screen and I see 9 of my colleagues. And through the power of technology, we now connect virtually. You know, it was as simple as getting up and walking a few feet or even just talking. Now it's technology that connects us. So how do we navigate this type of change so that we can really bring the best out? Now, you're probably thinking, just like this person here on the screen is, there's probably a whole set of questions that's coming through your mind right about now. One of those questions might be, how do I help my employees become fully productive in this period of turbulence? Especially when the things that led to their productiveness is not consistently available at this point, or the people who they worked with consistently, possibly their customers or the vendors or others, are not there. So how do you keep them productive? And do I need to clarify expectations as it relates to their role as we adjust to this change? And if I do, when do I do that, and how do I go about doing that? And what information or resources will they need? And how do I make sure virtually that we can provide those kinds of resources for them? And how do I keep them connected, working in this new environment so that they can play off of each other's strengths, so that we can continue to achieve and succeed and meet the new challenges? How do I coach them to make this kind of transition? And then what do I need to do to create a positive work environment where they can thrive and we can meet or exceed the expectations? And notice, normally we'd say meet or exceed the results, the business goals. Those are all still there. But in a crisis, it's sometimes just the ability to stabilize, to become productive, to make momentum and build on that momentum so that we can begin to make the progress, to move forward. Those are all the kinds of things that I want you to think about today as we work with you today. Now, when you think of those questions, here's what I want you to realize. You're not alone. This frustration that you feel, this unease you feel, that you're not the only person out there. If you thought employee engagement was vexing and complex in normal times, gosh, I've seen some most unique ways of challenges on employee engagement and turbulence that I've ever seen in my life. Highly professional people wondering, how do I do this when this is happening? How do I do that? How do I make this adjustment? So how do you nurture employee engagement so you can increase productivity to meet or exceed those expectations that is placed on you today? There's an answer to all that. Today we're going to share with you realistic practices that, when followed, will help you increase productivity and help you meet or exceed those expectations that your organization has of you as a leader and of your team in these times of turbulence. Now, with that in mind, here's what I'm going to focus on in today's showcase. Why is it that employee engagement is so critical in these times of turbulence and business disruption? Again, the things that the employees knew that caused them to be engaged has changed. And if you were a leader who had to manage and lead before employees to be fully engaged and help them, it becomes magnified. What 5 conditions allow employees to engage with their work and drive results when they're working remotely or when they return to what will become the new normal? The other thing I want you to think about as we advance is the full value of actionable data in times of crisis. Data that helps managers lead, that helps managers nurture, engage, and help employees continue to grow, continue to develop, even in times of uncertainty. One of the things that was most exciting to me just yesterday was an employee who says, we have a little bit of downtime now, and there's things that I needed to fully develop myself in that would make me even more productive in the job. And I'm now taking that time because it's available to me to focus not just on helping the company thrive, but helping me grow as I go through this experience. The challenge with employee engagement, there's an author by the name of Jacob Morgan. He's a best-selling author. He wrote the book called, he's a futurist and wrote a book on employee engagement that really stands out. He makes a comment, the big problem with employee engagement is that it's not the cause of something. When you think of employee engagement, it's not what causes it. There's other things that come into play that begins to impact as we take a look at employee engagement. And as we think about that, that's what I want to focus on, is that the employee experience is the cause, and engaged workforce is the effect. So when you look at this right now, we have to, even when working remotely, or even in the most challenging, turbulent times, we still have to create the employee experience. It's the employee experience that will drive the productivity, that will drive the engagement, that will help meet the challenge that you're having today. And that's what we want to focus on. Now, the facts. Let's talk a bit about the facts and talk about it and just back up for a second and kind of level set. When we look at engagement, we looked at it from the past. We look at it from a survey of the Gallup organization that they collected over 195,600 employees, over 31 million respondents to their Q12 survey. And we knew in the past that 52% of the workforce was not engaged. 18% was actively disengaged, and 30% were engaged. Now, you take a look at today's world. You take a look at the world through your eyes when you're going through this turbulence, and you think about, every employee, every person in your company has good intention, but intentions have to be transferred into behaviors and have to be transferred into action. And of all times, the connectivity, the experience that we're creating has to be so much more so that the employee, we can bring the best out in that employee, that we can create an environment and we can create an expectation of engagement. When we think about the past and think about engagement, and you think about it from an analogy of a bicycle, and you have 10 riders on that bicycle, here you take a look at those 10 riders, and you think about today's world. If we're thinking about this engagement this way, and we think about it from this 10-person bicycle, 3 of these people would be pedaling the bicycle, 5 people would be pretending, and 2 people would be jamming on the brakes. So how far do you think the team can ride? Now, let's take one of the wheels off that bicycle, and let's all of a sudden take a few of those. And all of a sudden that gear shift is not working as effectively. Now we have to take a look at engagement from a whole different way, and how do we bring the best out in those? And when we think of engagement, we think of it as an expense, and we think about it from the standpoint of what the cost is of engagement. And when you think about the cost of engagement, it goes back that it costs close to $550 billion a year, and this was in the world of yesterday, and we got to think about it today. We have to make sure that we're creating the conditions that create great employee experiences so we can bring the best out in employees. We can't afford disengaged employees today. We can't afford unsatisfied workers. We have to have creativity. We have to have increased communications. We have to have all the extra efforts that it took to make things effective, to make people more productive together than ever before. So when we start thinking about these 5 conditions, I want to turn to my colleague, and my colleague Crystal is going to talk about these 5 conditions to a stronger employee experience in turbulent times. Crystal?
Perfect. Thank you, John. John is absolutely right. When we are thinking about facing the challenges that any business has or any organization has, engagement and disengagement have always been on our radars. But in these turbulent times, all the more, we have to really focus in on what can be done. when we are facing the challenge of engaging a team that may have already been disengaged. Now we can't, touch them physically or see them in face to face, but we're looking at them through another lens. And as we're doing that, we really want to take the time to build in some experience for our employees that would make them want to stay with us and also engage in the work that we're putting right before them. Now, according to Josh Burson, he's a well-known industry, he's an HR analyst, founder of Burson by Deloitte. Employees require 5 basic conditions to engage in their work in turbulent times. The first is meaningful work. These conditions that we're living in, they're turbulent, they're uncertain, and people are looking, and they're looking inside of themselves about what's my next step? Is it with this organization? People are making a lot of decisions, and they have to find meaning in their work in order to move back into productivity, out of paralyzation. They also need hands-on management. Yes, we can't touch them physically, but managers out there, I know that looking through that lens, put up some discussion questions, some dialogues, and continue to manage them as you would and engage them further than you ever could, because they're needing that from us now. Positive work environment. Make sure that you are thoughtful in your interactions with your team as a whole, and that you're creating a space to air those grievances. The 4th is growth opportunity. People can still grow. John mentioned it earlier. Someone who maybe didn't have time to invest in self-development now is actually finding the time to do so. And trust in their leadership. We want to be sure that our teams can trust in us, and that within itself will help our teams engage, our employees engage, and experience us and our organizations differently in these times of turbulence. We're going to dig a little deeper into each of these, and the first is going to be with meaningful work. Let's talk about it. So maybe the most important part of an employee's engagement level is if they're finding meaning in what they're doing. I can tell you that in the recession of 2008 that ebbed into 2009, that for myself, I had to really shift gears. I was a financial advisor, so kind of grab a hold of that and think that at my core, I knew I didn't want to sit in that seat anymore. Some of your employees are right now looking at their jobs, at their roles in solitude because they're in their own homes, and they're trying to figure out, what does this mean? What am I bringing to the world, especially during this turbulence where everyone's feeling helpless? They're looking for us to point them in a direction that they could find meaning in their work. And one of the places that they will find it is if they are fitting their roles. The first thing is person fit. This is all about putting people into roles that build upon their own unique and innate talents and skills where they're most likely to succeed. When we hire people, we bring them in, we're looking for people who fit, people who will perform their jobs well, and they will love what they're doing because they found that job or job person fit. People who are also a great fit to their role and find meaning in their work are given tools and autonomy that is needed in order for them to continue to move forward, especially now when autonomy, ownership is something that is of high importance. They need to be empowered. They need to be empowered to make small decisions, big decisions, individually or even in a small team setting. And the company needs to invest some time and effort into developing people's skills and talents so that they can make those decisions by themselves in those smaller groups. And at last, they need to have time to think, create, and rest. John said it earlier. We're in a time that is changing. With the turbulence in the air, we all have to relook at things, and creativity is running rampant because everyone's looking at a blank piece of paper. Give them some time for slack, some time to recover, and to engage. Now, typically, when it comes to fit or finding the right fit for your organization, most companies think that they can accomplish this meaningful work by aligning people with skill fit only, such as education, training, experience, and they fall back on company fit even. So do they fit our integrity, our attitude, our values? But the missing link is really job fit. The reality is that in order for employees to truly find meaningful work within organizations, the organization has to measure job fit. When people fit the job, all those attributes we just mentioned, autonomy, empowerment, working well within teams, even remote teams, have a higher probability of being accomplished. With job fit, organizations have accurate and reliable information to predict future job success, and especially as the job is changing in this particular time of turbulence. And future is the key word here. Tools such as resumes, interviews, 360 reviews, those year-end appraisals, all those current things that we're using that are only focused on the past or the current behavior, but none of these resources provide a comprehensive prediction of an individual's future performance in a given role. The PXT Select, however, uses psychometric data and a validated methodology to measure job fit, which can greatly assist in predicting future job success. The science of psychometric measures how people think, how they work, and what interests them naturally. Psychometric studies the difference between an individual's cognitive level, so can they do the job? And right now, they're asking themselves the same question that you're asking. Can they do this job? How can they do this job? Do I have the behavioral makeup in order to accomplish what is set before me? And will I enjoy the job? Now that I'm in a remote setting and every other organization is at home as well, am I really enjoying what I'm doing? By looking at the individual's characteristics, organizations can match people to the roles that they're most likely to find success and meaning within, both in the context of the present and future jobs. So what is it? What is job fit, and what is the benefit to you in helping employees achieve meaningful work in turbulent times? If job fit or person fit is so important, how do you go about accomplishing it? Well, job fit boils down to this. When a person's characteristics fit those required by the job, the individual experiences more productivity, engagement, and satisfaction in their work. On the other hand, when someone doesn't fit a job, their productivity and their engagement, they suffer, and the likelihood of them leaving or being asked to leave greatly increases. Now, matching the right person to the right role, you can get an employee who is engaged in their work, especially during this time of hardship, especially during this time where people are not sure that they fit anywhere. But finding them a fit to their role and showing them that they can find that meaning within their work is the work of every leader right now. To establish job fit, we have to start off by gathering some information needed to paint a picture for what the ideal candidate or the ideal person looks like. This is step one, and it's extremely important because if you don't know what you're looking for, how do you know if the person that's in front of you is the right person for the job? Or how do you even know if it's the wrong person? Now, whether you're seeking a senior executive, a mid-level manager, or an individual contributor, PXT Select tool helps you identify the traits and behaviors that are required to perform the job successfully. It helps you by determining some target areas across 20 different scales, the cognitive scales, the behavioral scales, and the motivational interest scales. Now, these targets are also known as a performance model. It determines the range of scores typical for success in the position that you're trying to fill. Let's take a pause. Now, perhaps you have been thinking, or you know the roles so intimately that you're saying, I could figure out these success ranges. Now put a filter over that and think about what we're seeing in today's economic environment with people working remotely and operating very differently. What you want to do is take that traditional model that you would typically have and be sure that you know those areas where maybe you need to shift a little, shift where that successful person would be based on where we are today in these turbulent times, where we are today as far as the remote lifestyle. Just some tips there for that. So how do you create or build a performance model? There's really three primary sources of data that are useful either independently or together to build performance models. The first, you can replicate your top performers. This approach shows you, it allows you actually to use the PXT Select assessment data results from your organization's top performers in any given position. The benefit of this approach is that you can easily spot future hires who share common traits with your most successful people, so you know exactly what you're looking for. No top performers? Not a problem. Our authorized partners can help you create models unique to your organization and position by working with one or more individuals who supervise that position, or like I mentioned earlier, they know the role very intimately. Once that's completed, the data is combined with input from other sources like a library performance model or perhaps some top performer data. To build a new model that is aligned to your expectations, you really want to be sure that you're taking these steps. And the third option is a performance model library, which is looked at by us as a quick start option. You can use it as is or just as a starting point for your own custom model in the future. Our library was developed with current industry data and includes over 185 performance models. Now, these models are representative of most jobs found in small or large organizations across a spectrum of industries. Now, once a candidate takes the PXT Select assessment, it creates a personalized profile like the one that you're seeing on the screen right now. And that profile is then compared their personal characteristics against the performance model that you just created. The higher the number, the closer the fit. As you can see in this example, we're looking at Oliver Chase's results. His individual characteristics are highlighted by his initials, and the benchmark, or that shaded area, is highlighted for us to see as well. And as you see, he's a good match with an 83% fit to the operations manager role. Now, in an environment like this where his talents and abilities match the role, Oliver Chase will have a higher likelihood of being engaged and finding meaning in his work. Digging a little deeper, matching Oliver's talent or any talent that you have before you to opportunity. So looking at job fit as an integral part of placing employees in roles where they're going to find meaning in their work, one of the key tools that you'll utilize is the comprehensive selection report. This report looks at one person, one position. It's also going to give you insights and the ability to look at a results summary, remind you of that performance model that you created, those parameters of success, and provide you with interview questions as well. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into that particular report. Now, the introduction, it sets the context for what's included in the report, and it gives a high-level summary of the three sections. The report includes a statement about distortion. In other words, whether or not your candidate's pattern of responses suggested that he or she were candid in their responses. If distortion is detected, you'll receive guidance for how to address it in the interview. Here on the page, you can see samples from each section of the selection report. Now, a typical report will have about 13 pages of data about the candidate. Although it seems like a lot, it really takes the time to highlight out the call-out information about the overall fit to the model, their percent fit to the category section, and highlight areas where you will know whether or not they are fitting the type of success pattern that you have outlaid. The performance model section of the report highlights the performance model, that shaded area that we talked about, and it's going to reflect where the candidate fell and where their placement is based on their initials. The report is simple and easy to understand. Each scale is defined and it includes an ideal candidate statement, very helpful for any of your hiring managers or even for you if you're utilizing the report to really guide you through each particular scale. And lastly, it includes customized interview questions with built-in a listen for statements. These are useful for novices in interviewing as well as any star behavioral interviewer who knows how to interview without any prompting, but it also gives insights for those who maybe are just starting out in interviewing, especially within your organization if you have new leaders on board. The PXT Select reports are a complete game changer. Matching the right people to the right opportunity is truly powerful, and the PXT Select will help select the right people, but also helps you shape that overall employee experience that we've been talking about.
Hey, Crystal, I want to take a minute as we transition, and I want to pull this back up for a second. I want you and I to take a minute and focus on this concept of meaningful work and job fit. And in particular, you know, as I think back in Turbulence and my experiences with Turbulence, and I reflect back to from a short term or long term, you know, my job just got turned upside down. You know, the work as I knew it and how it was done partially in the past isn't exactly how it's done today. So all those attributes of fit that I had, the fit to the skill, the fit to the job, you know, those are still there, but all of a sudden company, my location has changed, and the world I know has changed. And now we're sitting here and we're thinking about working in a remote environment or working through a period of turbulence. And you start thinking about this, how much more important it is as we think about pace, or we think about assertiveness, or just in the world of sociability, how sociability has changed.
Definitely.
All those things. Reflect back. What have you experienced as you worked? Crystal, by the way, leads a very, very successful team and has done so for years. And I wanted to reflect a little bit on what some of her experiences have been that she's gone through the last few weeks that maybe some of you have experienced, and how fit and how people are transitioning. What do you have to share there?
Sure, of course. So John hits on a very good point. When we look at fit, when we bring someone into an organization, we are matching them, like we did for Oliver here, to a certain position. Now, although Oliver's results, his assessment, his initials won't shift, maybe that job around him is shifted because of the turbulence, because of the remote environment. And we have to see that, or I've seen lately that I have to put kind of a filter or a reminder for myself. Let's go with pace and sociability. We'll talk about those two really quickly. Pace, the more urgent team members, for me, I have to really think about how do I help them not lose momentum in this lower producing work environment? How are they staying motivated? Because they like those short, those really quick wins. And if I'm looking at someone on my team who is not as high in pace, then I'm really thinking through the urgency that I, as a leader, need to carry with them. Because as a leader, we have to really know ourselves as well and just kind of keep that mindset of these reports not only help engage us in a conversation about helping others find meaning in their work, we can also engage in some empathy dialogues based on them, or helps us to understand one another better. So I've seen people who are more highly social. I chat with them more through the chat features. I'll send them a couple of different emails that maybe would, for a more reserved colleague, go, oh, that's kind of overkill. That's a lot of communication. But for our more highly sociable teammates, John, I find that engaging with them at a quick text chats, it keeps their sociability skill almost fulfilled, because socializing energizes them. And so having this type of data on my team has helped me to really shape the way that I'm approaching them in this remote setting. So thank you for asking that.
Great. We have two kinds of probably people, I imagine, that I think about sitting here listening to us today. We have many of you are our clients, and many of you are clients who have used our tools for years and have used the tools in a variety of different ways, and some of you are brand new. One of the most unique features of this tool is the utility of the data and the versatility of the platform. You have data on people. As you go back into this new world, roles, work as you know it, may be adjusted to whatever that reality may become. You have data. With that data, the beauty of performance models is you can sit down and you can look at the new future, you can look at the existing performance model, you can make adjustments, and you can help the workforce who got you where you are today to get you where you're going to be tomorrow. And it's all through this tool. Think about interview questions, but think about it just a little bit differently. Think about interview questions as a means of helping people become more aware. Crystal talked about pace. She talked about sociability. Some of these things that are totally the world as they knew it fit perfectly. How you can help them make that adjustment, and that's the key, and that's what we're all about. And it's the power of having data on people and accessing that data to bring the best out in them, which leads us to what it's all about. It's going to take hands-on management. To be a manager in before turbulence, I mean, you had to roll fast. You had to deal with some waves, and every once in a while, you're going to have one of those squalls that's going to be out on the ocean that's going to come just kind of wash over you. Now they're just coming constantly, and you have to be the person that creates and be hands-on to create that employee experience. This is the condition that I think leaders, as I listen to our executive leaders, that I saw in many of the meetings I've been on, is how you stay connected and how you do it on a weekly, daily. You heard Crystal talk about even through messaging. It's those kinds of things that make a difference, and that's what we want to talk about, is this hands-on management that's going to help you. A good manager is someone who's isn't worried about their own career, but really worried about their people. And today, you just have to even be more worried about your people. These people got you where you're at. These people, the talent that you have, is going to get you to that new reality. And so your job, and the glue that's going to hold that together, is that manager and is that leader. And so now we sit back and we think about during these times of change, this is just so critically important. When there's uncertainty, a fear of risk, when business may not be doing well, as we just see in many of the situations, you go back to current, you go back to 2008, you go back to 2001, you look at all those different times of turbulence. Now all of a sudden, we have to stay connected. You have to understand how to play up to people's strengths to drive results and how to support them where there might be gaps. And to do that, the goals, the clarity of the goals that we had 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago is changed. So what are those goals? We're still here. We're still going to be providing those same services, and it still comes down to that manager and how that manager fits their role. If there was a challenge before, now magnified it because of all the technology and the touch points that you have. Look at the coaching. Look at just even how performance management comes into play. And so when you think of those things, we have to come in and begin thinking about how can the same actionable data that we had before be used to help that manager bring the best out in that employee, provide the coaching, and give them what they need to be more effective when coaching that employee. And to do that, we want to take a look and talk about one of our reports. And the report we're going to talk about is our manager-employee report. This report in today's world, when you're looking at an environment like you're in today, you want to be able to take a look at the manager, you want to take a look at the employee, and you have data on both. And one of the best things that manager can do is say, okay, let's kind of go back to the basics for a second. Let me understand this employee, and let's take a look at this report and see where they're at. And this is a kind of tool that provides that information that's going to help that employee, that's going to bring the best out in that employee. And one of the neat things that you see as we take a look at this is that this report takes a scale, and you see up here, and you see assertiveness, and it describes you and the employee and tells you some things about working together. You're still working together. The environment might have changed. There might be some differences. There's tendencies. There's your tendencies and their tendencies. And of all the times, consider this. What more? I mean, it really could help you so that you know how to bring the best out in that individual. This tool also has a means of providing some reflection questions so that you can take a look from a reflection standpoint and say, here's this person. Here's something to think about that person. So that's key. When you want to look at the environment, one of the first things we want to take a look at is helping that manager really go back and take a look at the resources they had, the people they had as they navigate through this change. Now, also want to take a look at how do you help this person be the kind of coach that brings the best out in this situation. Again, it's kind of like you're used to a playing field of a certain kind, and now things have changed. So when we start thinking about coaching, This report provides you maybe even a deeper understanding. And again, for some of you who might have used our tool one way, this coaching report is so powerful in any situation, but in particular in times of turbulence. And then if you're looking at this as a new client, just think about the power of equipping your line managers, the frontline leaders, the leaders even of executives, how to bring the best out in people. What do you need to know about this person? Again, you might have known them, but now you place them in a new environment. And what kinds of tips could help you, and what's the bottom line? Again, those are the kinds of things that really bring out the best, and that's what you want to focus on. So, again, the power, the environment's changed, the playing field's changed, the players are the same. And our job and your job is to bring that data, use that data. The same data that's going to be used to create the goals and objectives to bring the business back to new levels of success is the same as data that's available to you that help the people in your workforce come up and develop to their very best and to deliver the results they want. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Crystal.
Right. And John, you said it clearly. You said the team that got you to where you are right now. And that couldn't be more true, because we see a lot of organizations that they aren't bringing new members into their work environment. They're really still utilizing those same teams and interacting with those teams and creating a new space for positive work to flow. So that positive work environment for your current and existing employees that maybe you've worked with for years. But John's point was, but under these new circumstances, do you have enough information to know how to navigate those conversations and to truly give them an experience that is above par, above level? Now, vibrant teams are crucial. And in turbulent times, these vibrant teams, they typically thrive. But even the best team can have its drawbacks or its hang-ups, especially when things are kind of prolonged. Like right now, there's so much uncertainty. We're not sure of when we might head back into the office. But as the leader, as the manager, you're looking at this team and you're thinking, how can I bring that same level of positivity to their workspace? Their workspace physically is different, but the interactions that I'm having with this team, how do I ensure that I'm leveraging the strengths of everyone that is on the team? Well, team fit is one of the measures within the team report for the PXT Select. And team fit is knowing the strengths and the derailers of any particular team. We want to be sure that we have flexible work environments for that team. Looking at their given situation, a lot of people on your team, or some, may be not only remote workers, but also homeschooling children. So we want to be sure that we as leaders are creating that flexible work environment that is inclusive. It's diverse because we are understanding our people at deeper levels, and we're recognizing their needs culturally as well. As promised, we are going to look a little bit at the team report and how can we use this data on our teams to really inform us and give us insights and to be able to predict certain team dynamics. For myself, I utilize this report. I pulled it out as soon as we came into the remote work setting, and one of the key dynamics that I found was really in the summary page for my team. It gave me an overall look. On average, your team responds like this, and it gave me a tip, so you should try this. It's all at the back of the report. That report has powered a lot of my discussions. It's powered the way I set up my daily conversations with my team, because the last thing we want to do is not be informed and continually trigger our team into frustration, unbeknownst to us. But with the type of data that's available through the PXT Select Team Report, we're able to take people from a point of frustration, like maybe we see the lady on the screen here. She's looking like she's starting to zone out and really be frustrated. We can't see these physical body languages anymore as people are working remotely. But if I know as a leader that she is on assertiveness, more unassuming, and I haven't heard from her on the conference call, she hasn't unmuted herself, what can I do to make sure that my other colleague on the other end of the spectrum isn't dominating that environment and really creating more frustration for our more unassuming teammates who feel like they haven't had a chance to be heard. Maybe we draw upon the strengths of those who are in the middle. But you can have a call plan or really have an idea of how to engage your team and utilize the strength of the team to keep you in that positive work environment, because we don't get to, I don't know if I mentioned it to John earlier, but we don't get to have the, by the water cooler connection time, or, we had a misunderstanding and an agreement and we're able to patch it up later as we see each other throughout the day. Sometimes we only see each other one time a day. So we want to be sure that every interaction that we're having with our teams in these more remote settings are forward-facing, that we're prepared to understand what does assertiveness look like for my team, or what does pace look like for my team, and what should I consider as I start to engage this team into dialogues or even into new projects that are forward-facing for our future. John?
Again, the team, and one of the things that Crystal talked about is just the flexibility. We've gone from, even in the most progressive companies, of employees having direction and can take the actions they want. They can adjust their times in the workplace. To now, all of a sudden, at home, that flexibility's changed, and Crystal said it best, is that, boy, there's so many different expectations that everyone is managing or can be managing when times of turbulence hits. And so, it's one of the things I found that my family has had to do is every once in a while is knock on the office door, because it's easy to all of a sudden extend a day. And because you're just here, you get on a roll. For others, it's going to be just the opposite. How do I fill that time to be most meaningful? Have you experienced some of that, Crystal?
Oh yeah, definitely. For myself, I find myself shutting down later, having to put some boundaries on my work-home life balance. I don't know if there was ever balance, but at least coming out of the workroom, of the workroom and walking into the living room where the children are and where life is actually happening on a different pace. But also on my team, I've seen people staying online longer and answering emails a little later. But a lot of it is responding to the needs of their particular clients or the people that are reaching out to them as well. So there has to be some flexibility, and we talked about it just this morning. I told them, I said, if you're seeing a lot more activity in the afternoon, make sure you're taking your walks in the morning and do it, taking care of you and your family needs earlier on in the day. So.
This fourth condition, growth opportunities, this turbulence in itself is a growth opportunity. It's an opportunity for each of us to learn some new strengths. It's an opportunity for each of us to really possibly do some self-analysis and see some challenges. I've had moments in this brief periods that I've experienced of how certain situations have really played right into my strengths, but I've also have had those moments of wow, I got to step back. That's not the best way. That's not the John way. That's not how John does things. And so you have to learn and take advantage of these. So when we think about this condition, what a golden opportunity for growth to be able to learn from this experience and to help you, help your people make this transition. And first of all, helping them learn, because the job, even though it might be in some sense of the word similar, but there is differences in helping people make that transition and grow in these differences. And we've all learned in life that there's going to be challenges, and there's challenges from a national level, global level, all the way down to the personal challenges of even how do you get through a day and be a committed, collaborative employee, but also meet the needs and support of children, to at one minute have to be an educator of children, to the next minute to have to be here doing your job and trying to do the things that keep providing the help, make sure that your organization is getting what they need from you to help achieve those goals. Training and support right now is so key. And, it's not so much about career mobility right now as just the assurance that, hey, when life comes back, each of us got us here. You're going to work with you to get us where we're going in the future. And learning, gosh, how has learning in turbulence has been such magnified, and then the culture. It's great when when turbulence happens is when you really see the true essence of culture. You see the true essence of values, and now you can begin to see and benefit and learn from those kinds of things. Now, employees have an opportunity today to grow in the job that they're in today. And so one of the best ways we can help employees grow in the job they have today, for those of you who already are with us and been using this wonderful tool for years, is to get those individual reports out again. Let people take a look at them. Let them go through and identify one more time what their strengths are. Let them begin to recognize what those challenges are, and let them take advantage of this learning lab that we're living 24 hours a day, and take advantage of that. And then from there, take a look at that feedback, play off of that feedback, and use that feedback to help them in the job that they have today. The other piece that we want to take a look at is that, we also provide individual results, but in a turbulent times, the narrative probably will be the stronger tool that's going to help you here. But it is good to sometimes, when the time's right, to share people that, hey, here's how you fell out on the scale. On pace, you're a little bit more urgent than you are steady, in helping people understand those uniquenesses. Crystal talked about it earlier, just how what we're experiencing is making some adjustments. It's causing all of us to stretch. And so we want to grow in that job we have today, and we want to use that coaching report. We want to empower that manager to help you grow. You want to use the tips to help bring that best out in that person. And again, it's right there. It's right right in front of you. You can use that. But then you also want to take a look at again, some of the more detail as that manager, especially as you begin to see ways to help people where they might be having some challenges. You might want to come in and take a look at those management tips and what those bottom line statements are, so that you can take a really good look at the job today. Now, there's going to be an opportunity soon to where we go back to what's the future lies. And with that future, we're going to take a look, and again, we want to base it upon today, but we also want to go and get ourselves prepared for, as we make this transition, to going back to what the new reality is and understand that new reality. And so in that new reality, the roles that we have may be making some changes. So we have to take a look at how those jobs change and be proactive to know that, again, you have the data. And as you begin restructuring and adjusting and helping people make this transition to whatever the normal is and whatever's going to evolve, that you have the information to take a look and compare them to what the world was and the world that they had before and the world that we're about to transition into. And again, we have a report that does that you can sit down and take a look and take a look at the job as we knew it, take a look at what other opportunities are available. Here you see the person was best suited for an operations job, and we have the data about that. But because of some transitioning into the new world, it may shift over that they may be looking at a material sourcing role. And if you take a look at results, when you start comparing, the results of the individual doesn't change. Just as as we think about the person who's working with me today, Crystal today, and the Crystal I knew 3 weeks ago or 3 months ago, still the same Crystal. But you know what? The world that we're working in, the job that we're doing has changed. And so we have some adjustments to make there. And that's the real power of this tool, is the fluidness of technology that allows you to make some slight adjustments to take this data and to really bring it to life, to meet the need that you have today, to again help this workforce who got you where you are today to get you where you're going to be to achieve those great results. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Crystal.
Perfect. Thank you, John. And so our last condition, or the fifth condition to a stronger employee experience in turbulent times, is a strong trust in their leadership. Now, we know that leaders have always been of high importance to any organization, but no company can win big over the long run without energized employees who believe in the mission and they understand how to achieve it. And that was Jack Welch. And so when we think about how are our employees looking at us right now as leaders, you are walking into your organizations needing to convey a vision, needing to convey new information that is both mission and purpose driven, because remember, we're still looking for meaning in our work. Leadership development is probably put on the back burner for some organizations. Others are full throttle, and your organization may be one of those where you're still developing your leaders because you don't want to lose that pipeline that you had going. But transparency within the leadership team and aligning and communication coming down from just kind of a brainstorming session or coming out and having those dialogues with your teams will also inspire them to know that they are at the front of your mind, that what they're facing is of utmost importance to you as leaders as well. And especially during these turbulent times, we know that leadership is for everyone, but that leadership mindset is going to be of great importance to every organization, really focusing in on the truth that leaders aren't born. We don't earn it through a degree. It's not determined by the neighborhood we grow up in, but it is truly a mindset. And proper training and practice can help anyone become a better leader while performing their current and existing roles. So when we look at what the PXT Select Leadership Report can bring to your organization, if you're a leader and you have been using our tool, I would really encourage you to connect with your PXT Select authorized partner, the person who invited you here, and ask them to pull that report for you or go in and pull it for yourself so that you can see yourself through this lens as you are navigating the times that you are in. Because the 6 skill sets that are covered, 3 of them are organizationally based and 3 are people strategy based. And the first one is creating a vision. John keeps saying, and he's just trying to help us come to that term of we're casting a vision to the future. Things that we knew in the routine of what we have been doing may not be the things that we continue to do in the organization. And so each organization's leaders who are able to create a vision, they're the ones who are excelling. They're imagining new ideas. They're looking at new inroads, innovating for the future. They're thinking big, and they're redefining those boundaries. Now, under the same organizational strategy, the strength of a leader right now in developing strategies to focus on transforming goals into action, into plans that are innovative and achievable. And also, something that so many of us are seeing and talking about is results, ensuring results. Leaders who are able to ensure results are able to implement organizational priorities. And right now, as a lot of organizations are re-looking at what those priorities are, this will be key for them as well. Now, the other 3 skills that I mentioned are all around people strategy, and that's inspiring people. So the leaders that are inspiring their teams, they're out there inspiring on every call. They're creating clarity around ideas. They're creating unity around ideas. And these leaders are more effective at communicating the cause with enthusiasm, and it's contagious. These are the ones we want on our team who are out there engaging the troops and really getting everyone rallied behind a purpose. But also being approachable. How much more now than ever do we want to have an open door policy? Some of us we're coming from open workspaces and there were no doors, but even now it's like I will answer your chat when you send it to me, and sending me emails and calling me on the cell, or reaching out to me through Zoom or what have you. We want to be sure that we are being approachable as leaders and encouraging team members to seek clarification. Because in turbulent times, lack of information, imagination runs rampant, and uncertainty is already in the air. We want to be sure our teams know that they can circle back to us and that we will address their concerns as well as we can, and that we will be present and we will present their ideas back to whomever we need to, or continue to have that dialogue with them as they engage with us further. Now, mentoring others is one that even in this turbulence can still happen. I know organizationally some of you have mentoring programs. Not sure if they're up and running or how you're doing there, but if you have a mentor program and you have access to this report, I would say pull it out. Help the leaders see how they can be more effective in this area, because it really is investing in the future. John talked about the job of tomorrow, the future jobs that we may have to create, and we're also creating those future leaders, and that's one of the particular skills that we want to be sure is sharpened. Now, in the leadership report, you can gain insight into, of course, any candidate's leadership, but like I said, existing leaders in turbulent times. I always reach back for my reports. I'm always reaching back for data because data informs us. It helps us to shape, and be informed with something that is very concrete and actionable, so I can keep moving forward. The leadership report also helps us as managers understand how an employee that maybe isn't in a leadership role, how they may lead. We may have a project that comes up, and we want to know, can they, can they take the lead, take the charge of a particular small group or small team in order to accomplish this goal that's not our business focus, but it's definitely a priority and a focus for us. So that's some of the ways that we can utilize that particular leadership report. John?
Thank you, Crystal. Again, we have multiple audiences with us. We have people who've used our tools for years, and we have those of you who we sure would love to encourage you to see the value in it. Through our presentation today, through this crisis, through this turbulence that we're experiencing, the value just stands out so great in that how any leader that you have in an organization that you already have data on, I just want to compel you to provide them that leadership report, because when you go back to that leadership report, you think about strengths and challenges. Strengths and challenges has a lot to do with the playing field that you're on and the team you're playing against. Sorry to use a sporting analogy, but sometimes that brings out the best. The field's changed. The competition has changed. The competition is getting us to the next level of success. And each of us are going to achieve that, and our companies are going to achieve that. And we do that through these employee experience. Work has changed. We want data. Hands-on management is so key. The environment, we have to be total in scope that the environment now takes in multiples, not just the office, but the environment our people are living 24 hours a day, of which we hope we can help them carve out 8 hours of the most productive. And then the growth opportunities to learn from this experience, and then the trust, of all times, trust in leadership. Leaders now, it's time for when they can best excel to help people achieve the results that we're going to need to have to really move to the next level. Now, with that, I want to ask you a question. Are you ready? Are you really ready to keep that momentum going? Are you ready to start that momentum going? Are you ready to help that employee have turn this into a rewarding experience that they're learning from, that they're engaged in, that they're productive in, and that you as the leader and that your company and that they feel at the end of each day that, hey, I'm exceeding expectations. And we know that as a company, when we have employees who are taking their actions every day, a company is a combination of all those actions that come together that achieves results. That's what this is all about, achieving those kinds of results. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Crystal.
Perfect. Thank you, John. All right, so we have considered a lot of information today, and I know that the turbulence of the times has us disconnected physically. I mean, looking at the image on our screen, you're going, wow, I don't know if I've shaken hands with anyone outside of my own household in a while, and I don't know when we'll be able to. But just imagine that when we're able to stand across from each other and extend our hands, we have come into that tomorrow. And so with that, you're going to have to reflect back and think, did I equip my team for the roles that are now current, that are our new norm? Have I equipped my organization with what it takes to get us there? And as you're asking yourself those questions, just know that you can have the data to inform those decisions today as you utilize the PXT Select tool. And we want to be sure that you know that the person who invited you here today has actually provided you a demo assessment. It's so that you can experience it. A lot of you who are on the call that have used our assessment, you also can gift it to someone in your organization. Maybe there's a leader you were thinking of that could really find value in that leadership report that we walk through. Or perhaps it's that manager fit report that you were looking at and thinking through, how can I know where conflict may arise between myself and one of my directs if I'm not able to manage the differences or even the similarities of us. So that will be available to you. We thank you all for joining us, and we hope you stay safe, and we'll be back in touch with you soon. Bye-bye.